I know we shouldn't have to scream that we're atheists. You know, we don't have non-astrologers and all that. But with religious people taking over the world, I mean, we can either speak up or be pushed into a corner. I'm proud to be.
What happens when you're a non-believer and find yourself in the Canadian Bible Belt? If you're like me, you gather some fellow heathens and take to the airwaves. So we invite you to take a left to the valley every Sunday at 1 p.m. on CIVL 101.7 FM. Follow us on leftofthevalley.com. Atheists, Skeptics, and Humanist Radio, no God required.
I'm an atheist. Hey. Faith in God is like a virus, so why would I respect it? The line between good and evil gets blurred once infected. The truth you neglected.
Just a bit of a side note before we begin. One question I have been asked is why I don't concentrate on the not science of MMS and what is presented by Humble and Rivera. My answer is twofold. One, although I love science and feel the science behind this shit is crank of the worst kind, delving into the chemistry of it all is a very long and tedious process. In other words, what Humble and Rivera state is so twisted, if not outright lies, it would take the patience of Job to unravel. I have picked at it some, but it's a 10-to-1 ratio. For every 1 page of garbage, it takes 10 pages to refute. Also, those much better than I have tackled this issue. I refuse to make my shit sound all sciencey just for the sake of word sounds. I'm a lowly dishwasher with no college degree. I'm not going to speak the language that I don't understand. I'm not going to make shit up. 2, and I'm going to steal a page from one of my favorite science writers, Oric, quote,
"There is no currently known valid medical reason to give this chemical to anyone to treat anything. None of this is or should be in serious dispute from a strictly scientific, medical, or ethical standpoint."
To me, that right there says it all. If science tells me that it's junk, guess what? It's junk. Now, Humble and his minions whine and complain that there are no trials being done, that this drug isn't being studied, or that autism isn't even being studied. We all know that's false. What they leave out in their whinge, in order for a trial, besides the legal and ethical considerations, there has to be evidence of some benefit to the proposed treatment. As Org notes, there is none. There isn't even an inkling beyond its use as a biocide. In that light, I'm more interested in the mental or emotional aspect behind it. Why are people so deluded into shoving MMS up their kids' asses? I'm not talking fence sitters, those that are honestly searching in desperation for information and answers. I'm talking your la, finger in the ear types who are presented evidence that this shit harms the children they claim to love, but yet do MMS ignoring the evidence. Now, remind you, I don't care what an adult does to an adult body, but giving it to a child, in my opinion, is verboten. To reinforce Oric's assertion, Dr. Eric Fombonne, who is a prominent autism expert, is cited in a 2009 Chicago Trib article surrounding Dan and the vaccine court, quote,
"There is no evidence for the treatment's efficacy, no evidence for the reason for them to work. There are no published studies which would suggest that they would change the course of autism."
So, last time we took a brief gander at Kerri Rivera. Today we are going to delve a bit more into this sadist with no medical background. we're gonna take a look at this mom who knows better than all the doctors and autism researchers. Quote,
From my perspective, if anything, we skeptics went a little too easy on Miss Rivera. But our commenters didn't. They called this treatment what it really is, child abuse. Even if the bleach in the solutions poured into these children's anuses were nothing more than water or saline, it would still be child abuse because it's a useless therapy that involves doing something that is likely to cause extreme distress to any child.
keep that in mind. When I first took an interest in this MMS shit, I was lucky enough to find not only Jim Humble's book, but Kerri Rivera's as well. As neither cost me anything and they were legally obtained, I was like, what the hell? At least the apologists can't say I didn't read them. And needless to say, the $0 I spent could have been used for better things. The time reading their dreck, I will never get back. But, in all honesty, the only way to combat this shit is to jump right in. I did. In 2012, Science Mom wrote this regarding a petition against MMS. Quote, the treatment of autistic children as objects of gruesome experimentation has to stop. Public perceptions with regards to tolerance of this abuse need to change, or it needs to be brought to their attention. End quote. Although I do not have the visibility of many fine bloggers on the front lines of this battle, hopefully I can do my part by bitching to you all, and you guys can carry that forward. The mindset behind this that is kind of a wee bit of an impetus is this. Quote,
See, this is exactly the theme you are obviously setting up. Those who take the position well-founded in science are not open-minded. We consider others whack jobs and have opinions set in stone. But somehow, taking a position not supported by science is not only open-minded for some, it's even equated with being open-minded.
shaking my head. We have all faced this in debating theists in some form or another. We have especially faced it when debating those who embrace the paranormal. That's what drives me, besides the obvious abuse of children. It's being told I'm not open-minded. But here's the problem. Science does not choose sides. It either supports your contention or it does not. End of story. I choose to err on the side of science. I thought first we would take a brief look at Rivera's book. What I think makes her so dangerous is her book. Her lectures are just as bad, trust me. But the audience is limited, at least directly at the venue, although the internet has changed that paradigm. What strikes me throughout this all, her son Patrick is nothing more than a guinea pig in a desperate struggle to rid him of his horrible demons. According to former, I'm not sure about that, minion Adam Abraham,
Rivera is the mother of an autistic child, a growing boy who, in his second year of life, was healthy one day and after receiving a required routine inoculation, suddenly went away. His body is there, but his spirit, his proclivity towards normal human interaction, is not. He is distant in a way that saddens a mother's heart.
Cry me a river. As described, these are the subhuman children that I mentioned in part 3. the soulless children stolen away by vaccines, only to be recovered by purging the toxins away. As I mentioned, this is the shit that Jenny McCarthy spouted earlier in 2000s. Quote, "Autism, as I see it, steals the soul from a child. Then, if allowed relentlessly, sucks life's marrow out of family members, one by one. It relegates every other normal to utter insignificance." That was in her 2008 book, Louder Than Words. It was penned by Dr. Jerry Cartznell, who wrote the introductory/forward material. This mindset is the same mindset of Rivera. Rivera's book further opens that doorway to multitudes. While I have read it due to other postings, I've never really written a review. It's just that bad from a scientific point of view, but yet trusted by many. Ban CD MMS has a pretty decent short review if you're so inclined. Here is but one example, and I, like many others, find this chapter, Chapter 9, very ironic. Not only does she condemn supplements in her book, but she states in her Autism 1 2014 appearance this.
Autism is not a lack of supplements. A lot of times we see these mega vitamin therapies and they really seem to be very expensive and we don't seem to get all we really wanted out of them. We need to focus on the excess in autism, which are the pathogens.
So, should we take that she's against supplements? They are a no-no? But Ban CD MMS notes this, quote,
Yet, in her book, after recommending the CD protocol, which will deplete your child of essential vitamins and minerals, they now advise you to give your child all sorts of vitamins and mineral supplements. It is a little like recommending that people burn themselves without reason and then advising them to use burn cream.
In the same vein, another example, although not specifically mentioned by Ban CD MMS, is the ingestion of vitamin C and or antioxidants. Quote from page 9 of her book. It's important to carefully review your child's supplements. In order to maximize the benefits from this protocol, consider removing any antioxidants. They kill CD. More on that in Chapter 5, page 88. Okay, so we will jump to page 88. Quote, although antioxidants have their place in personal health and are common in many foods and supplements, they cannot be taken at the same time with chlorine dioxide. They negate each other. This is why vitamin C, juices, and other antioxidant-containing foods are prohibited in the diet. So, which is it? Are they banned altogether? Or can you just not take them when consuming CD? I really hate contradictions. I have in the past mentioned the problem with this suggestion, and it boils down to one thing. In Rivera's effort to, quote, heal the symptoms known as autism, she is causing more harm by damaging one of the foundations of our immune system. I go on to use a candle analogy. Now, keep in mind, we already have the first contradiction. On page 133, she says to avoid carrot juice, as it feeds the so-called pathogens. Yet this is what we read on page 234. Quote, carrots are another effective home remedy for eliminating intestinal parasites in children. The chemical constituents of carrots attack pests by preventing their development, yada yada yada. So which is it? Are carrots good, or are they bad? What she forgets, the sugar she so wants to avoid that's in juice is still present in the whole vegetable, or she prefers grated vegetable. I'm really confused. I'm going to highlight one more quick example of bad science and call it a day. If you remember, in the past I have noted Emily Willingham's experiment that shows that MMS is a bleaching agent. In the same vein, Matt Carey of Left Brain, Right Brain has taken that idea one step further. Quote,
I thought about taking this to the next step, putting some drops on raw meat to see how much tissue would be bleached. Then I thought, I wonder if there's a study on this already.
what makes Matt's inquiry interesting as well as eye-opening, there is a study. Actually, there's a couple of them to support his claims. Something he notes in his subsequent posting. The study, comparison of organic tissue dissolution capacities of sodium hypochlorite and chlorine dioxide. Now, according to Matt, this first study looked at how well these solutions dissolve tissue. The results and conclusion of said study? No statistically significant difference was found between the tissue dissolving properties of 5.25% NaOCl, which is sodium hypochlorite, and those of 13.8% ClO2, which is chlorine dioxide. Saline did not dissolve the organic tissue. That was on page 2. Jumping ahead to the conclusion. Within the limitations of this in vitro, it was concluded that ClO2, chlorine dioxide, is efficient as well as sodium hypochlorite in dissolving organic tissue. Oh, imagine that. So, foreseeing issues among some of the MMS apologists, Matt found a second study titled Effect of Chlorine Dioxide and Sodium Hypochlorite on the Dissolution of Human Pulp Tissue, an in vitro study. Again, the conclusion, 5% chlorine dioxide is capable of dissolving human pulp tissue, but sodium hypochlorite was more effective, and that's on page 358 if you're interested. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but both Humble and Rivera's solution is 28% chlorine dioxide. A lot stronger. So much for avoiding the science. As you can see, it can become very bulky very quickly. But Rivera's book, as well as Humble's, is full of this shit. And those are just a couple highlights. If there was some actual science in with all the anecdotes, it would be bearable. Regretfully, the anecdotes offer no supporting data to the cause. Parents are seeing what they are meant to see, what they are brainwashed to believe, because they are so desperate, because they are so vulnerable. Autism is not stasis. It's a developmental delay. What parents are seeing is that development progressing, just at a much slower rate. Like most religionists, Rivera takes advantage of the most vulnerable. While she seems to have toned down the religious aspect, it is still there. Remember, she is a bishop in Humble's church, and like most frauds, she is hiding out in a foreign country to avoid any type of discipline. And as I was writing this up, as of 8 a.m. on the 28th of May 2016, she has left her Facebook group, CD Autism. According to her post, she writes, "Due to personal issues, I have decided that my mission is complete. I left a book that is my legacy. My book is not medical advice, only my observations along the journey. Beginning today, I am closing websites, social media, consultations, connection to Autism World forever. Best wishes, Kerri Rivera." Now, at the time, at 8 o'clock, she was no longer admin of her Facebook group, but her sister was. This is developing. So till next time, I'm not sure what I'm going to report on because, as we all know, over in the UK, Leonardo Edwards has been nabbed as well and is facing trial. And we just had the Smith trial not too long ago. So, is the CD cult finally going down? Maybe we'll find out. Thanks, and have a good day.
Hi, my name's Callie.
And I'm Ari.
If you're like most of us, you're very concerned about the gay agenda's plans for world domination.
Are you tired of seeing glitter all over every damn thing?
Do you hate rainbows as much as any other red-blooded American?
Then we have the answer for all your baseless fears and unjustified paranoia.
Presented exclusively on Secular Media Network, the Gaytheist Manifesto is your source for news, commentary, discussion, and debate at the intersection of the atheist movement and the LGBT rights movement.
You can find us on Spreaker, iTunes, and at gaytheistmanifesto.secularmediagroup.com.
If you're not ready to get in line for your mandatory gay marriage and you're terrified of short-haired women in pantsuits, come have a listen and get up to date on their plans. You'll be glad you did.